if we went in there as a manual measurement, I would have had to spend 3 days. We did it in probably about 6 or 7 hours, all in all, which is great. Once you've uploaded it and you open up the iMapper software, and then it just automatically puts everything together for you. It's great. It's quite fun to see.
How would you convince people to use iMapper now that you're a power user?
Just do it. You won't regret it. It is a massively helpful tool in advancing your practice and the way you measure.
What do you specifically do? What is your job title, but also how do you do measurements and how you did them before iMapper?
So I am a chartered architect in the UK, and I'm the owner of an RIBA chartered architecture practice. And we work mainly in the residential area. We do some commercial work as well. A lot of the work we do is with older buildings, some of which are listed, many of which are Victorian, Edwardian, Georgian. As such, the requirement for accurate survey information is paramount for us, and certainly quite a challenge when you're doing that manually. Up until using iMapper, I myself and also my practice have always used manual measurements, so distomats, laser, hand measurers, and of course measuring tapes. That served its purpose for a long time. So it's still very helpful for certain aspects of surveys, but using iMapper now has just totally revolutionised the way we approach surveys. It's given us a lot more confidence in the drawings we can produce, and especially when we're on site, and inevitably when we stumble upon discoveries with the building and changes might need to be made, I can stand by the accuracy of the information we've drawn from the very start of our involvement in the project, which is quite nice to be able to do when you're under a bit of pressure. It's nice to have that confidence, and it's really important as well. Really important for the project team to have that too.
When you get on site now and you use iMapper, you are sure of what you've taken, and does that compare with the previous methodology, like traditional method? And
Absolutely. Well, I think particularly when you're working with older properties, walls generally are not straight. That's just the way it is, and obviously new buildings eventually they'll settle, and things change too. So it's that level of accuracy that we can really rely on, and iMapper can pick up on that. If you go into a room and it's pretty straightforward, maybe it's not a primary focus for your project, you can obviously adjust the level of detail that iMapper will give you, which is great. So you can do that room in 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever setting you might change, make it. Whereas if you're in a room where you're like, okay, this is where we're focusing our scheme. For example, if you're doing extensions, those areas of the property, you can turn that detail right to the highest level. And when you get back to the office, the algorithm throws it all together, and it's super straightforward. And you can just see a nice clear cut lines of exactly the space you're working with, and then you can go from there.
So, Tom, what were your concerns at the start when you were purchasing iMapper? You were like, is this going to work, or is this the right tool? Yeah, could you share that with me?
I think the first thing that I would have been hesitant about was how accurate it would be and how much of a time saving it would be for the practice, whether it was the right step to make in that sense. So obviously I saw some ads on Instagram. That's how I actually discovered it. And I thought, oh, that looks too good to be true. And how you see these ads, you see all these millions of ads about, software to sort of streamline your business. And as an architect practice, we get all these adverts all the time. You think, okay, here's another one. But this, I thought, okay, that looks really interesting. I've obviously seen, like, say, versions like Leica, which are just like £25,000 and stuff. It's crazy. So I thought, okay, this is essentially ticking the boxes of what we actually need to do with our surveys, is the 2D sort of plans and elevations sections. And I thought, okay, cool, but it's so much more affordable. So I thought, okay, well, is it too good to be true, basically, and that was my main concern. But it was great, it was a big step. And obviously then the second thing was the price. And I thought, okay, well, it's an investment obviously at the start, and then obviously the ongoing monthly. And I thought, well, again, is this an investment that we should be making as a very small practice at the time? Especially, it was just myself. I thought, well, look, what's the worst that could happen? And it worked out really well. So yeah.
That's really interesting. Okay, so you like took the leap of faith on iMapper. That's really awesome to hear because there's many professionals that think about iMapper as a product that's too good to be true because of the precision that we talk about. So in laboratory conditions, we now get to 0.7 millimeters, plus or minus 0.7 millimeters, and on site it's around 1 millimeter, but we are conservative to say 2 millimeters, and that comes also with a very good point cloud density, 10 every degree, so it's very very precise, and you get now all the details. So thank you for sharing that because there's many people that are on the brink and like need to choose should I try this, and there's also one thing that is really good. It's the 30 days at the start, which I think you are familiar with, where you could choose to either send it back or money back. Yeah.
Which is a really good idea, by the way. I think that was sensible. As was the soft landing, so teaching onboarding new iMapper users. That process has been really good, and also the ongoing support with that. So whenever a new member of staff starts here, they can have that introduction. We often measure the office here as a starter, just to kind of learn how to use it before.
So for the onboarding, you're like you book a demo with the team of iMapper to get the person onboarded, and you
Yeah.
measure the
So,
office itself.
so we have some great, very accurate surveys of our office now.
And that's awesome. I love it. So before iMapper, you said you were using Disto, like a traditional method. What were the major problems that now iMapper has fixed in terms of, was it about speed or certainty or mistakes that were costly within your projects?
Accuracy, 100%. It's the accuracy. And then following on from that, there's other things that you just can't quite pick up. If you're doing verticals and you're working with a building which is 16 meters tall, how on earth are you really going to be able to get like the ridge height? With the model that we have here, it sounds like the new models actually are going to be able to give us far more information as well. But the model we have now for the verticals is super helpful because we can get the exact height of that ridge, and then exactly where the windows are, whether the specific details. It's really helpful. As an architect, we're taught to learn, measure buildings, and learn to understand them through measuring. That process, you still get that with iMapper because you're still, you might be waiting for it to take its scans, but you're still taking photos. You're still, measuring certain manual details that you wouldn't need iMapper necessarily to take because you can just do it while you're there. So it's good. Yeah.
How did you find yourself by looking at the point where it was taking the scan and also the photos? Was that helpful? How did you find yourself using that?
Yeah, I mean, we were doing that just today, actually. Just literally half an hour before the meeting, we were trying to determine whether something had gone wrong with the survey we'd taken. And I was looking at the iMapper back and forth photos, and everything was lining up. I was like, it's accurate. It's definitely accurate because we could actually pinpoint on the photo exactly where the laser had passed, and I could see exactly the corner of the room. And I was like, well, it all lines up, and we checked it from a few different angles. So we have confidence. Whereas now, if I hadn't had that reference, let's imagine if we didn't have the photos, I might have thought, okay, or if we didn't have the software, or whatever, or even if we just had manuals, there's no way, I'd have just sat there and thought, oh, crikey, I'm going to have to go back to site, My first ever boss, he said to me that we do an Australian survey. So you have to imagine the surveys in Australia, you can't go back, so you get all the information on that first visit. And I've never really had to, I think once I've had to go back, and that was because we ran out of time. But the iMapper really gives you that kind of that ability just to get it all done in one. You don't have to have that awkward conversation with the client and say, oh, unfortunately, we missed something. Can we have access again? So it's good. It saves you a lot of time and difficult conversations.
Especially those.
I wonder a favourite aspect or a favourite part of the iMapper. If there's one thing in particular where you really love.
It does so much for you, basically. So you can turn it on, and then as you do that, you can maybe converse with the client. You can actually think about what you're going to be doing with the space, and it's doing a lot of the work as you're observing, building a rapport with the client or whoever you're on site with. These things are important, and you can have more time for that whilst the measurements are being taken for you. And again, I think the thing that I love most is probably that accuracy again. Say we work with buildings which are sort of 600 years old sometimes, and they are just higgledy-piggledy, They're all over the place. So it's you can get so much more detail really with this tool. Yeah. Stress definitely reduces, and also time. I mean, the amount of time, like say prior to iMapper, I could easily spend 8 hours surveying a building, with another person. Now I can do that same building on my own in 3 or 4. And that's massive. And again, the information that comes back is just more accurate, and you get all the photos, revolutionizes it really. And I've said that to some friends as well who have practices as well. I said, so have you got an iMapper, because they get the Instagram ads as well. And I tell them you should just do it. Don't even think about it.
It's really interesting. You mentioned, the same amount of time, if you spend 8 hours doing a survey, you get less detail, you're way more stressed, and maybe you need to go back on site. So you don't only get a bit more of the speed of time, but you also get the crisp detail on the point cloud. What is a project where this level of detail was revolutionary for you because you couldn't have done a disto laser or a tape measure?
I certainly do. Yeah, I mean, I've quite a few that have come to mind, but there's one that we've done recently in the last couple of months, and it's an old schoolhouse. I think the headmaster lived in this property, and it was next to the school. And it's probably 100, 150 years old. They're around about that, and it's a total renovation of the entire building, along with a few simple extensions and such. But essentially, the place needs so much work, and they started some of that work, and so some of the walls have been opened up. They've taken off, lather and plaster finish, wall coverings. They've taken floorboards up. They've done all sorts, and so we've entered into this building, and it's so hard to read. If we didn't have a tool like iMapper, we would have had to do everything with manual measurements, and no wall is straight, and also no wall is still in fully in place really, because they've sort of been hacking away and started the demolition already. So this has actually allowed us to pinpoint exactly even where the studs are, where the structural openings are for the windows, where lintels are positioned, all these things. Again, if we went in there as a manual measurement, I would have had to spend 3 days maybe measuring it up. We did it in probably about 6 or 7 hours all in all, which is great. So and then obviously the detail now we have in our drawings as we're developing our design, it's just really clear that we understand the building. So when those drawings go out to contractors as well, they'll say, okay, great, this is what we're working with. We can give them exact takeoffs of square meterage. We can give them they know exactly how wide the windows are, because everything needs to be replaced, so they can get such accurate information at early stages.
How do you find value in the platform usage?
I think it's the fact that once you've uploaded it and you open up the iMapper software, and then it just automatically puts everything together for you. It's great. It's quite fun to see. It's quite rewarding, seeing it all just suddenly just sort of zap together, and also sort of taking certain measurements as well. If you're in AutoCAD or whatever software you're using, and you're unsure about something, you can just jump onto the software and then take a measurement. Just double check it's all lining up, and it's definitely the algorithm to bring it all together. It's very good.
So when you do, let's say, some rooms of a house, and there's an open door, there are some windows, it automatically matches it for you. Is that precise?
Exactly. As long as you have a clear reference point through the door or through the window, yes, absolutely it is. It's super precise. For example, if you're, I don't know, measuring a hallway, let's say, and there's a landing, and if it picks up a ceiling, or like if there's a pitched ceiling and it picks that up and thinks that's the wall, it can. But then again, you just go, okay, right, you manually shift it around slightly. It's pretty straightforward. I think generally my approach to surveys as well is to, the staff that are going to be working on the project should understand the building. They should visit the building. They should learn it. They should measure it. So we do try to keep that consistency. But on the occasion, for example, if someone's on annual leave and we've got to get a deadline done, one of my staff can then jump on. They can see straight away see the photos on iMapper. They can put it all together, and then they can take that on and continue developing those drawings. So it's quite useful. Whereas if you're looking at some scribbles, some manual sort of measurements, obviously it can be very hard to understand exactly what you're working with. So.
To wrap up, I would ask you, how would you convince people to use iMapper now that you're a power user?
Just do it. You won't regret it. It is a massively helpful tool in advancing your practice and the way you measure. It's important to keep up to date with technology, and also to have that confidence in your drawings from the very start of your project. iMapper will help you to do that and to push yourself to the next level of professional quality. Yeah, just don't think about it. Do it. You won't regret it.